Bridget, I love it when I get to meet your friends. You
Mm.
are you're a really great person, and so I fully
Oh,
expect that when I'm exposed to your friends, I'm gonna meet awesome people, and that happened. It happened as we got to have this ah life-giving conversation with your friend, Jonathan Hernandez.
hmm Yeah, it was such a cool opportunity to. I always love that when we can bring real life friends onto the podcast. And he's just someone, in my own life that I have a whole lot of trust for. And he's one of
Yes.
my close people that I can call when I get stuck and need help and need to process my own story. And it's really cool. We're both certified connection codes coaches together. And he also is certified in husband material coaching that helps men outgrow porn. And this was a really important conversation around pornography, and we talk about sexual abuse. So just a trigger warning there. If that's a part of your story that feels a little too tender to engage today, I'm going to encourage you to listen to this episode in small pieces or when you have more capacity to engage the conversation. And just I also want to make the notice too that in this conversation, because Jonathan is a man speaking, he's talking about a male experience. I always want to make sure that we communicate that a story of porn use is a male and female story. And so I think that both people can walk away to say, wow, like I'm learning how to engage my own story of harm and pain and brokenness all together. But I think the thought that went through my head during this conversation was, I don't know if any dating podcast ever has ever been brave enough to have the conversation that we just had today.
Mm. It, I haven't heard it. I haven't heard it before. To go there with attraction, sexual
Mm,
arousal, honoring beauty, um, noticing the difference between honoring beauty and trying to consume. I think that you're going to leave this episode with language you didn't have before, descriptors you didn't
mhm.
have before for that experience and telling the difference between the two.
Yeah. Mm, so good. Please tell us your thoughts. Any follow up questions, always feel free to email us. And let's dive in. Welcome to the Dating and Desire podcast, a place for conversations and resources on sexual formation for adult Christians.
I'm Lauren Matthews.
And I'm Bridgett Blood.
Together, we combine our years of ministry experience and time as certified coaches, helping men and women just like you navigate dating in a way that honors your core values.
Each week, you'll hear us talk to therapists, pastors, coaches, and other leaders in the field of sexuality and relationships.
While we acknowledge believers hold various perspectives on this topic,
We're gathered around the belief that our desire is holy
our body is good.
and our story matters.
Let's dive in.
Well, this podcast has been long time coming. Very excited to have you here today. And, I mentioned it just a little bit before off microphone of just like the safety that I feel with you to be able to come as my imperfect self and learning all the things. But I really do. I don't know that I've verbalized that to you yet. And it just kind of hit me of like, you are the man that I call when my dating life and I get stuck in my sexual story and like need someone to bear witness, like, oh, I got to call Jonathan. And so I just want to say thank you as a friend that like you are that person for me. And I feel like really, really honored. Wow.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Bridge. I wish I could hug you through the screen.
Mm.
Thank you for saying that.
It's a precious thing to have people in your life and opposite gender people in your life who can hold the celebration
Mm.
as well as hold the pain. I think one of the harmful things that has happened in church culture in the West, um, is that we've separated our gender so much that we miss out on just what it feels like to have a brother or an uncle, um,
Mhm.
to be able to just walk with life. We really do
Yeah.
need each other.
Mhm.
And in the body of Christ in general as humans, we need each other. And so lovely to experience and bear witness to your friendship being such an example of that, an example of an apologetic for let's
Mm.
have friendships. Let's love our siblings well because we really do
Yeah.
need each other. So good.
Mm. Joy. Yeah. We
Yeah.
have a lot to dive into today. I wanted Jonathan to be here just because he is a man that I've watched with a lot of integrity and engage his own sexual story and the way that that plays out in his own romantic relationship. And so we're going to get there. But kind of taking one step back from that, when we talk about this on our podcast a ton of engaging our story. We use that word a lot. For some people, they're going to be familiar with it. Some people aren't so much yet. And so it's this
Mhm.
idea of you can have a lot of information about your trauma, and that's a very different experience and probably won't lead you to as much connection and flourishing as you're hoping for
Right.
if you leave out this really important piece of self-kindness and curiosity about
Mhm.
the who, what, where, when, why of your story. So let's kind of start there. Where do we go with curiosity in our life?
Sure. Great question. Let's dive in. I guess I can tell you a little bit about how I stumbled with curiosity in my own life, and
Mhm.
not just curiosity but kindness together.
Mm,
Um,
excellent.
because I definitely come from the Christian background where you go to church, you do all the churchy things, you know how to be a good church Christian,
Mhm.
and you are the least authentic version of yourself
Wow.
because you're really, really trying to make everybody like you. So my parents were youth pastors, and I was very addicted to porn since I was 11.
Mm,
Um, and I just didn't feel like I could talk to anybody about it. And I was always just like if I say something, people are gonna, they're gonna say, "Oh my gosh, like you are the youth pastor's son, and
Mm.
how are you in such a terrible sin?" In that little world of mine. And I was also preaching on the streets, seeing a lot of people healed from several diseases and illnesses, and giving words of knowledge, which is when like God gives you like a thing about someone, and then you say it and it kind of lands well in their life. So it's kind of like a prophetic thing. So I was doing all these things and it felt really powerful. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm amazing. And then people were like, oh, he's the evangelist. He's the blah, blah, blah. And so there was that persona that I built to protect who I actually was on the inside so that people wouldn't see my actual fears or my actual needs or any of that. So I was a really good
Yeah.
performer in the Christian world, and just thinking about destroying all of that was very hard for me because I was like, okay, like I need to keep preaching, I need to keep doing this. Like if I watched porn last night, I need to go and pray for 3 people today and have 5 people receive the Lord, and like this whole thing. And so I had a very twisted way of thinking about God. And on the
Mm.
outside, it looked like a super holy, amazing thing.
mm,
I'm not saying everything was bad, but definitely the way that I understood God was not really who he was
Mm.
or is.
Yeah.
And then there was one time where I was watching porn in my bathroom. It was in the middle of the night, and I felt God's presence in the room. And I
Mm.
said, "Why are you here? Like what like," and I got really angry at him and I was like, "Why are you here right now? Like I'm doing
Yeah.
the thing that you are supposed to hate and to not be here for, but you are
Yeah.
here." And so I got really angry, but that completely disarmed me. And I said, maybe I just don't understand who you are. Like if you are here in this room right now while I'm watching porn, then
Mhm.
everything that I thought about who you are is wrong. Because I thought you
Yeah.
wouldn't be here. I thought I had to do all the good things for you to be with me. And so that started my journey really of like, oh, who's God? Who is he actually? Like,
Mm.
and that prompted me to be able to speak out and say, hey, I'm struggling with porn, and to tell my parents, who are the youth pastors, right? And I was like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, here we go. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I just knew at this point that God loved me even though I did that. And when I talked to them and they just loved me through it, and they were like, we love you and we want to be here with you and we want to help you figure this out.
Mm.
That that just destroyed me, because on the inside I was very like, like, I had never been that vulnerable in my life because I was
Mhm.
like, "Okay, like, if people say I love you, I don't fully receive it because, well, you don't know what I did last night, you know? You don't know who I
Mhm.
watched or what I did, so you can't say that you
Yeah.
love me because, if you knew, you wouldn't love me." And then there's
Mhm.
these 2 people that are loving me even though they know what I did, and then I had this experience with God where I feel him loving me and being present,
Mhm.
even in the midst of what I'm doing. So that changed everything for me, and that started my journey of, I would say, freedom, but mostly formation with, like, oh, this is a thing that is gonna be a process,
Mhm.
and while I'm going through this process, I know that I'm being loved and that the God of the universe is actually present with me. And if he's present with these parts of me that I hate, how could I not be present with them? So when I say these parts of me, I mean like the parts of me that are watching porn, that are feeling like all these different things and are doing all these sexual sin things
Yeah.
to help me in some way. But for
Mhm.
me in the past, it was like, no, that's sin. That's the devil. That's all these awful things that are trying to get me and I need to fight them. And this was the opposite. It was like, no, no, no. God is loving those parts.
Mhm.
How do you make space to start loving them as well? And loving them is
Mhm.
being curious with them. Like, for example, if you're in a relationship, uh, if you love your person or just friends or whoever it is, you're going to be curious about them.
Yeah.
You're going to be curious about their life, about who they are, about what they like, about why they do what they do. Um, if you don't love them, you're not going to be curious. So that was the beginning of me entering into this whole thing of like, oh, curiosity and kindness leads me to wholeness, not because it's a superpower, but because I'm actually making space for God to love me in the places that I hate about myself.
Mm.
And in turn, I start loving them and seeing what's actually happening on the inside. And for that, I also need a lot of people. I need good people that can
Mhm.
hold space for me there. Um, but yeah, so why is it important to be curious and kind? I would say because I can put an example. Like, let's say we are walking on the street and we see a homeless person.
Mhm.
You can have several reactions to the homeless person. You can be like, "Oh my gosh, he's not doing anything about his life. He's just terrible. I'm not even going to give him money or food because that's only
Mhm.
going to make it worse." I could also
Mhm.
just be like, here's what you need. Don't even talk to me. I'm gonna get you food. Don't talk to me. I'm uncomfortable with you. I'll just give you food. I feel like a really good person because I gave you food, and I'm gonna leave. Or
Mhm.
I can also be curious about him,
Mhm.
which will probably be very uncomfortable. And I mean, if you feel safe, right? Because there's
Mhm.
situations where that will probably not be the right thing to do. If you
Mhm.
feel unsafe in that situation. But if I'm curious about him, about his life, maybe he went to war, maybe he's a veteran, maybe he has a drug addiction and problem, maybe, and then I start seeing all these things about him. Now, it's not my responsibility to take care of him, but that's just a little example of when I humanize the other person and when I'm curious and kind with them, I get to understand why they do what they do and why they are where they are.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing with my parts or with the
Yeah.
different parts inside of me. So yeah.
Yeah. So I can hear that, in my own story and just as people have navigated, the Christian space of, yeah, 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 that's cool, but we just have to stop bad behavior.
Mhm.
So we actually do need you to like get it to like jump into gear. What's the phrase? I don't know what
Get
the phrase is.
get it together.
Get it together and repent and look how horrible your sin is and all these things so you stop doing bad things.
Yeah.
What do we say about that?
Oh my goodness. Feel a lot of anger about that.
Mm,
That's definitely the message I received my whole life.
mm,
Um, that I sometimes keep receiving from myself in
mm,
several situations. Um, but I've seen that's not really the answer to anything. It's
Mhm.
like I love this. I love this from Christopher West. He talks about the law and love, right? So he basically says that we as humans have flat tires, right? It's like you're a car and you have a flat tire, and the law tells us, "Hey, you have a flat tire. Fix it. You have this terrible flat tire in your life. You have to fix it." But that doesn't help with anything. That just makes you aware of the flat tire, right? And it's like,
Mhm.
well, thank you. Now I know I have a flat tire and I have no idea how to fix it. And now I'm going to try with my whole might and power to fix it, which I don't even know how to do that. And then the actual love of Jesus or his grace is, oh, you have a flat tire? Come with me and I'm going to mend the tire and I'm going to bring air back into it. But it's such a different way of thinking because to know that you have a flat tire, you have to be curious. Where's the flat tire, right? And then where's the pinch in the tire? Where's the rupture in the tire?
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
will see that, but I don't just stay there. I also need others here, where it's like, hey, like I don't know how this happened. I don't know where it happened, and I actually need help, and that's vulnerability. Just
Mhm.
like, hey, I'm gonna be vulnerable here. Like here in Mexico, we have flat tire workshops almost everywhere. So it's really way easier to get your flat tire fixed here than in the US. Because in the US, it's like a whole big thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, here you just go
Yeah.
real quick. They see it, they put it in water, they find it, and then they just bump it, and then that's it. They fix it. So, but the cool thing about it is like I need others for that, and I need others to hold space for my tire in that place as well
Mhm.
where they are able to say, "Oh, here's the rupture, and I'm gonna be with you here to fix it. And then this is what we're gonna do." But okay, this analogy breaks there because I I don't want to say that we're fixing behavior, right? Or
Yeah.
like we're fixing ourselves. But in our own lives, I would see it more like, "Hey, I'm watching porn and I can't stop." And then the church is like, "Well, you should or whatever, pastor, whatever. Just pray more, just fast, just do these things, just turn over, like, just destroy your phone and destroy your computer and never ever look at them again. And then you just walk around with a flip phone and, you're just like, I mean, like trying the best that you can to stop doing it.
Mhm.
But if that's where we stay and we don't actually see why we are doing what we're doing, we're never going to grow. And I know a lot of people, a lot of men that have stopped watching porn, that have stopped they stopped all these things, but you see their lives and you're like, "Oh, bro, you're not healthy at all. You're
Mhm.
not healthy.
Mm.
You stopped the behavior, great, but you're not healthy." And
Yep.
so when I see this thing of like, "Oh, when did I start doing this and how is it helping me? How do I think this is helping me in life?"
Yes.
Because the behavior is not the problem, it's the solution. It's just a very bad solution,
Mm.
you know? And so
Yeah.
I'm like, how did I start doing this and what is it helping me with in life?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
am I watching porn because I feel lonely? Because it's the only way that I know how to regulate myself? And then how can I approach this with kindness and curiosity so that I can see where it comes from? And when I know where it comes from, then I know how to lead it better, where I can be
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm watching porn because I feel lonely.
Mhm.
And then what do I actually need in loneliness? What's my actual need here?
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, my analogies kind of broke in the middle of themselves, but
No,
hopefully,
I think
yeah,
they set up really well, Jonathan. I think, it when I was listening to you, it was really I heard very clearly where our theology can break down as well, because when we're talking about coming to Christ, you know, getting saved, coming into a saving knowledge of Jesus, the church is very clear. We don't earn this. We don't merit this. This is God's unmerited favor to us. Um, God's kindness, like Acts says, is what leads us to repentance. But then from inside, once we're in the body of Christ, our theology reveals itself when we see a pattern of behavior and say, oh, I got to get this better before I
Yeah.
come to him. Really, that's our enemy's attack. That's shame. And I agree with you in the feeling of anger, because when we think about the ways in which the church has aligned itself with our enemy, out of a good desire to not make light of important things, act like our sin doesn't matter, but we inadvertently, we co-sign with our enemy when we act like, oh no, get better first, then God will like you. So in the part of your story where you said, I'm doing this thing and I feel the presence of God in the room, I just
Mhm.
want to I want to shout, I want to run a lap, I want to cry, because
Mhm.
that's a picture of our God that we don't often let be real and significant. We
Mhm.
act like he's treating us like the homeless person, like we could treat the homeless person. Get it together and then I'll come back. But your testimony is so powerful in that it includes
Mhm.
this part that says God came to me when I was helpless. Like, I think that's a really important part for our listeners who struggle with pornography or any unwanted sexual desire, or even who are past struggling, but
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
wrestling with shame and wrestling with but he really didn't love me. I really appreciate you elevating and amplifying. Like he comes to us
Yeah.
Mhm.
because we're his. So good.
Mm.
Yeah.
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 So I'm curious about kind of how this is played out, right? So you have this moment with Jesus, you have this like new experience of learning, and then you go on a learning journey. So kind of
Yeah.
after that, like what does your pursuit of sexual wholeness look like just for you as a man, and then as you have dated? Like let's start in just the your relationship to yourself. What
Yeah.
has this journey of sexual wholeness looked like for you?
Yeah. I love that question. Well, the journey for me started with, well, I'm watching porn and I have no idea why. Like
Mhm.
I'm just doing this thing. And at first I was like, I need to learn what God meant by sex, because
Mhm.
we are sexual beings and that's a really good thing, right? So I was
Yeah.
like, it's not like I can remove my sexuality from me. I can't remove this desire. So I need to understand what it's meant for. So for
Mhm.
me, it was just diving deep into, oh, how does God look at women? How does God look at man? How does God look at sex? Like all these things. And just, I'm always very hungry for that. And so I just started going with that. And then I went more also on the other side of, oh, porn is exploitation. And this is what's happening to the people that are performers, right?
Mhm.
And then all that justice side of things.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, shoot, when I watch porn, I'm actually really engaging in the exploitation of somebody else, and also the exploitation of myself, because I'm treating myself
Mhm.
as an object, and then the other person as well." So that whole thing went into a lot of that and psychological stuff there.
Yeah.
What happens to our brains, right? So just wanted to know the whole picture of it. Um,
Can I pause
where
for
I
1 second?
Yeah.
That's like really brave territory right there. That I think we all have to, at some point in maturity, stop at and say, "Ooh,
Mm,
wait."
mhm,
Even though it could have been because of sexual abuse or what my church taught me or lack of education from my parents, and all of those things are true and worth grieving,
mhm,
but to also say, "Ooh, wait. I am participating in
mm.
an objective experience of sexuality that now I have the choice to change." But
Yeah.
you don't have to come at it as like, "Oh my gosh, I'm this sinner, disgusting pervert." You can come at it as a like, "Oh, sad. Like, God has a really better, like, so much more fun story than the cheap one I'm playing, and I don't want to live in that anymore."
Yeah. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, 100%. Because I'm like, we have this sense of sexual freedom, but when we see what that sexual freedom does to us
Mhm.
and the people around us and the people that we're watching or using,
Mm.
then we get very clear that it's just another form of slavery with a different branding. that's like, oh, you're being free, but really you're
Mhm.
just being a slave to the sexual exploitation machine, you know? So
Yep.
for me, it was like, wow. And I was sexually molested by
Mhm.
a close friend when I was
Uh,
like
Yeah.
3 years old, and that's my very first
Mhm.
memory in life, which was terrible.
Mhm.
There was definitely this thing of me trying to understand what happened, so it was weird.
Yep.
Um, but I was always trying to understand that in
Mhm.
in my own life. So like also getting to a place of wholeness had to do with that specific part where I was like, oh, this happened to me. And so revisiting that when I was 18 and I decided to speak out about my porn addiction. And so understanding my own trauma pattern was really important there
Yep.
and how I was using porn to understand what happened to me or kind of like reverse it in a way.
Yep.
Now, I understand now so much more about what happens to your brain when you watch porn and all these things.
Yep.
But this was a big part of my story. So I would break it down in three things. I would say um, my trauma and how I'm trying to understand it,
Mhm.
and not having the tools for that. Porn looks like the best solution. Then
Yep.
what does God say about sex and women and men? Because I just learned this whole trash for all these years, and I need to
Mhm.
learn the real thing. And then in the justice side of things, how am I participating in sex trafficking, in slavery, in objectification of myself and others while I engage in porn? So these
Mhm.
three things were very big and are very big in my process of understanding
Mhm.
uh, just my own sexuality and sexuality in general.
Yep.
And so now, as a man, uh, what am I pursuing? I'm definitely pursuing what I think God created sex to be, and that
Mm.
is the image of the church in Christ. Now, I'm not saying that we have sex with God or anything like that, because that's way,
Right.
way higher than just sexual, but it's more like
Yeah.
this union of
Communion.
marriage. Yeah, this union of marriage and sexual connection in marriage is a shadow of our union, eternal union with God.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so for me, I'm like, how do I learn to love in that place? Like Jesus is loving me, the
Mm,
person that I'm choosing to love, and also my own body, and celebrate what's actually happening in me as a testament of this eternal union.
Yep.
So that's where I am today with that. That
and you're
was a
not
very long
married, Joe,
answer.
correct?
I'm not married. I'm not having sex
So
till I get
right.
married. Yeah.
So I'm emphasizing that you're not married right now because
Yeah.
it's significant to me that in the telling of where you are right now, you said, I'm engaging in my story in a way that reflects this beautiful design God has for sex in representing the way he orients to his church. And that could be tricky for people because
Mhm.
of, you referenced messages that we've had in the church that have left us kind of floundering and thinking like, well, I don't need to think about sex till I'm married.
Right.
So I'm curious as a man, as a currently single man, like what what do you think your sexuality is showcasing
Mhm.
about
Yeah.
how God loves his church? What is your
Yeah.
sexuality for right now?
Yeah. That's such a good question. Right now, I'm engaged. So there's definitely different things between first not having a partner, then having a girlfriend, and then
Mhm.
being engaged. Um, as a single man, if I was not dating anyone and in my process of not dating, before it was very like, okay, I want to see women like God sees women. So like there's something in the eyes of Jesus that when he approaches a prostitute like Mary Magdalene, there's
Mhm.
something in his eyes that change everything. And that
Mm,
boom, she comes to herself and she comes to her true identity and then
Yep.
she follows him, right? So I'm like, okay, wait, like if you're a prostitute in the times of Jesus, you
Mhm.
there's three ways people could look at you, or well, two ways, and then the third is Jesus. The first one is you're disgusting, get away, like I don't even want to see you. The second one is like I'm gonna use you, and I really lost after you because you're an object of pleasure. But then Jesus
Mm.
sees her completely different from those two things. and he's like, "Oh, you're beautiful. Oh, you're beautiful, and you're a beautiful human being." And she like, I don't even know. Like, I remember watching The Chosen, and that's probably the closest thing that I could think of where he calls her by her name, and she's just destroyed, you know? Because for me, calling her by her real name is seeing her true identity and being like, "Oh, you're not this. You're not a prostitute. You're
Mhm.
not all these things. You are beautiful." It's like you're a diamond, even if there's dirt on you, you're still a diamond. So for me, that's like, oh, that's how I want to see women in whatever spectrum. Like if I climb, so I'm a climber, so I go to the climbing gym, and girls there wear just very tight clothes all the time, you know, and they want to be comfortable. And a lot of them, you could see they are doing it to call people's attention. And then there's others that are way more reserved and that will wear just really baggy clothes, right? And they are all in very different journeys in their own life. And so for me, that's like, how can I come into this place and not be like, oh, don't look, like don't look at these girls because like, oh my gosh, that girl has really tight leggings. I should not look, and I need to. No, no, I'm not gonna be doing that. I'm gonna be like, yes, there's joy in seeing beauty in women because their bodies are beautiful and that's amazing, and God created them to be that way. And there's also a twisted thing in me because I learned all these objectification and conditioning because I didn't have anyone to guide me through my sexual desire as a kid, where I'm like, oh, yes, they are beautiful. And yes, I feel like I need to use them. I feel like I need to grab them and like do something about it, you know? But then there's this beautiful thing of like, I can come into this place and be like, wow, I acknowledge the beauty of these women. And I also don't need to use them, and I don't need to do something about it, but I can just be like, wow, God, thank you for creating such beautiful women. And they are a testament of your beauty, God. And I want to treat them as such and see their actual person on the inside and be like, okay, yeah, maybe this girl is wearing really tight clothes and she's being like super flirty, but I want to see the real person in there. Because that's just a thing that she's using to either make other people like her. I don't know. I don't know her story, right? But regardless of what she's doing and why she's doing it, for me, it's more like I want to be able to be like Jesus and be like, oh, I see you. I see who you actually are, and I see you as a person, regardless of what you're wearing or what, you know? And so for me as a single man, that's kind of like the process. And I think it adds on. It doesn't stop and then I do another thing. But dating was like, okay, now I get to have a relationship with a woman that I find very attractive and that she's beautiful. And how am I going to approach that with honor and value and just actually honor my values, which that's where Bridget really came along to help me so much. Because for me,
Mm,
the part of, okay, like I get to see who you are in God and your true identity. Well, that's
mhm,
kind of easier than, okay, now there's one woman that I can actually share a sexual connection with and that I can actually express, you know, our love and our union, our thing in kisses and in hugs and all these things that turn me on. And now I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, now what do I even do here? You know?
Yep.
Um, so that's what Bridget has come along to help so much. And then engaged, well, that's like, oh, now we get a bigger expression of this. How does this look like? But I think it builds up, you know, because it's like if I get to see your identity, then I can actually love you for who you are and not because of what you have or try to use you in a way. And I can also identify when I am trying to use you, when I
Yep.
am
mm,
trying to get something from you. And there's that thing that Jay Stringer talks about with narcissists that I love so much. He's like, narcissism is not being full of yourself, but not knowing who you are. And so you have to use other people to show who you are, right? Like, oh, I have the most attractive girlfriend. Look at me. I have money. Look at me now. I have, you know, and then I grab their identities to become my identity. So I use them. So for me,
mhm,
it's like, oh, the more I become whole in myself, I can love better other people and be with them and not
Yeah.
use them. So I think that
That's
answers
good.
the question. I don't know if it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, we covered a lot of ground there. I want to kind of slow it down for a second. So anytime, so we talk a lot, well, maybe we have talked about it on the podcast, but I talk a lot about in client work of what I call sexual activation. So the
Yeah.
idea of, you gave the gym example, but it can be anything. I mean, I think of, I see an attractive man on Instagram or jogging down the street without a shirt on or whatever it
Mhm.
is, where again, I'm noticing beauty. Bodies are cool. Like, that's
Yeah.
okay for us to say that there is a sense of sexual curiosity about other people. That is fine.
Hey.
What I think you did a really good job in, and the other thing that I want to invite people into, and I literally had a phone call with a friend about this morning. I said, where does that activation start to have a dark edge?
Mm.
And to maturely name that. And I don't know if I've shared this yet here, but a couple months ago, 6 months ago, I don't know, met a very handsome man in a business event, and of course, it felt good to have a single man talk to me and congratulate me and all of those things. Fantastic, great, but there was also something I could. It was physical in my body of like, I have to get this man. Pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me. And
Hmm.
I go,
Yeah.
ooh, I am like, that's a consumptive
Mhm.
experience of his sexuality that I have to own. Not to say, again, because I think people go from like, they go on one edge of the spectrum. They go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're saying that you had a dark edge with someone's sexuality. Or why are you like even calling it that? It's fine. Just love who you love, do whatever you want to do. And what I'm saying in the middle ground is to say, oh, wait, like, what about this sexual activation is replaying some trauma for me? For me to be
Mhm.
able to look at, because I had to ask those questions of like, wait, what is it about this man that I am not just attracted to? I feel it physically in me where it hits something dark.
Yeah.
And so for me to go, oh, wait, in my brain, he represents this type of person. And if I can get that type of
Mhm.
person to name me as valuable, then I have my worth.
Mm.
Yes. Yes.
Now, I did
100%.
not get there in that day when I saw him. I went, I think I need to tell a friend about this because it feels funny. It wasn't
Yeah.
just a like, oh, I saw an attractive person and my brain kept going. It was like, oh, I keep thinking about you over. And I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
I don't like this.
Yeah.
And so typically the model is shut down in shame, repent in a closet. And I go, no, I refuse to have sensual experiences by myself
Yeah.
because those are also scary experiences to have in our body to go, ooh,
Mhm.
I'm drawn to something that I know is outside of my value system. So
Mhm.
whether that's
Mhm.
porn, whether that's texting someone that you're not in a relationship with, whether that is, intentionally revealing your body to provoke attention. And both men and women do that, by the way. That's not just a
Yeah.
woman
Sure.
thing. Men
For
do that
Yeah.
for sure,
Yeah.
right? Where it's to go, ooh, like, I don't want to do this by myself. And to be able to call in help. Again, this is why we have coaches. Like, well, this is why
Mhm.
Lauren, and literally, you have 3 coaches on this call, all people that sit with clients and talk about this. But also, like, this is why, as a coach, I still have someone that coaches me to say,
Mhm.
Mhm.
I had this funny experience with a man. Nothing physically happened, right? There was no breach of my sexual value, but it activated something funny in me that I don't want to keep spinning. And I actually want
Yeah.
it to heal me. And I want to know, okay, Holy Spirit, like, where I don't like the term tempted, but I'll use it for the sake of not having a better word. Like, where am I
Yeah.
tempted to step out of my sexual value? But what is the goodness, like you said before, like, what is the goodness that this air quotes bad behavior is
Mhm.
trying to reveal in me? And how do I say, oh, wow, like, Bridgett, I blessed your heart that
Yeah.
something in you came alive, feeling valuable by a
Mhm.
successful, handsome person.
Mhm.
Amazing.
Yeah. I want to
Yeah.
amplify and just lift up several things. One, Bridgett, thank you for the way you named what it could look like to
Mhm.
objectify a man. I think
Hmm.
sometimes we don't think of women as objectifying men beyond, oh, his body is hot, and the way
Yeah.
you honored or allowed us to hear,
Yeah.
I wanted him to pick me
Yep.
Mhm.
as part of objectification is super helpful. I hope that it sticks with all of us that are listening, just
Yeah.
as ways that we can be entering into this. And then, Jonathan, I like in your gym example, the way you gave voice to the way a man can observe beauty
Mhm.
Mm.
and let it just be that.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
some people, you know, some people run or are present themselves in their exercise or wherever they are in ways that draws attention to their body. But also some people are just wearing what is, like, I think about the gym example, safe to climb in. Super baggy
Yeah.
clothes might be the safest thing to climb in. So we're not like naming intention with how someone shows up, but
Mhm.
you recognize in yourself, okay, beautiful body, that is not mine. So God bless that beauty, and I'm
Mhm.
gonna keep working on, whatever else I'm doing. I'm not running away from the observation of beauty. And this leads us back to that first question of
Yeah.
how can we engage with curiosity? The more and more we have these conversations on the podcast, in our
Mhm.
coaching work, the more I think curiosity is a non-negotiable. We
Yeah.
we need to maybe we need to include curiosity in our spiritual disciplines because it's so important. It's such an important
Mm.
part of knowing ourselves, our God, as we relate to the world. So I just
Yep.
Yeah.
wanted to, lift those parts that we've talked about up because they're so valuable for all
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah, 100%. And there's you were talking about this, Bridge, where you said, the example with the guy in the business meeting,
Mhm.
and you were like, "Oh, this is something else because it feels way more powerful." And
Yeah.
that reminded me a lot of Drew Boa, who's
Yeah.
a coach that I work with. We work in husband material, so that's for men who want to stop, um, just living in a sexual addictive world or sexually addictive world,
Mm,
Yep.
and become healthier. But he said this one thing that I loved, and it's in his book as well, where he is like, okay, there's differences in the activations that you have. And
Yes.
that's exactly what you were saying, where it's like, oh, that's an attractive person. And then when I see, oh, that's attractive and I need to have it and I need to keep thinking
Yep.
about that person, and that's going to just be my whole everything. And we have such a big reaction to that. And that's an actual trigger of an
Mhm.
actual something inside of us. And I think that's just very, very good to reiterate, where it's like, oh, when I have this really intense desire towards someone, that's a sign that there's something deeper happening inside of me. And
Mhm.
I mean, for me, it's like just the whole story that I've lived in my entire life, and we don't have time for that. But basically, there's a specific type of woman that if I see that specific type of woman, it's so magnetic for me and so
Mhm.
attractive for me. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I need to have that. Like that is going to make my life amazing. Like that's
Yeah.
all I need in life. And then that's a place for me to be curious and be like, that's probably not true. That's
Yeah.
another human being that has their own stuff, and that's not going to be the salvation of my entire life.
Yes.
Um, but I think it will. So then I start being curious. And then that's why we're here as well as coaches, to get curious with you, with your story there, to be like, oh, yeah, maybe since you were a kid, you received this message. Maybe you thought this was
Yep.
going to solve this problem, this specific problem inside of you, or that's just the image that you're using to become your
Mhm.
salvation in a way. Um, and that's just the best place where you can be curious.
Yeah. I
Um,
wish I had good language around the difference between um like present, like you're present in yourself, intense sexual passion, and what I'm calling the dark edge. Like, I
yeah.
guess you feel out of control. I don't, maybe Lauren, you have some language around that because I think the reason why this is an important conversation is first of all, everybody has this. Everybody
Mhm.
has sexual templates with types of people that they're more activated by. certain types of behaviors that they have more curiosity about, the stories that are attached to them, how they're reenacting trauma and those, like, that is every human. There is
Yeah.
no human on this planet that is void of those. And I think when I have conversations with people, they think like, oh my gosh, like I couldn't, like, I must be the only person
Mm.
that ever has a thought in my brain that isn't in perfect alignment with the values I want to live out. And so I think really slowing it down to say, um, the reason why I feel so important about this and in taking off the, like, it's not the consumption, let's use that word, the
Mhm.
consumption that happens in us, right?
Yeah.
That type of behavior, if we don't bring curiosity and kindness to that, does follow into married sexual activity. And just because it is your marriage
Mm.
partner does not make it not sinful anymore. It's still wrong. So if
Mhm.
a married couple has conflict and one of them goes, oh my gosh, I just want to diffuse the situation, like I'll go initiate sex because I just need to, like, it's fine. We don't have to talk about it. Like, it's fine. I know that, like, you really want to go to your mom's for Thanksgiving, but I don't want to. Like, oh, it's fine. Like, let's go put sex on this. It'll be fine. And I'm
Mhm.
like, wait, but you're still using sex in a sinful way. And
Right.
so slowing it down to go, wait a second, we want to create this wholeness where it goes, when I choose to participate, and I use the term sensual activity because that includes things broader than just genital play.
Mhm.
When I choose to participate in sensual activities in the alignment and in the containment that follows my personal sexual ethic, like, I want to be doing that from a place of peace and connectedness. But to
Yeah.
acknowledge, as a human who lives in a real human body in a real broken world, there's going to be thousands of experiences where I'm put kind of in that crossroads to go, am I going to keep playing out the
Uh-huh.
darkness, or am I going to use this as an invitation to go, there actually is something weird here? I love you mentioned that term earlier of like, when we feel like, something about this feels funny, it's typically a trauma pattern showing up.
Mhm.
Um, and for us to look at it. And so I just want to say that as a sense of like, whatever your thing is, right? You could name 100 different things of like, oh yeah, there's something about this dynamic that I find like turns me on. But I feel
Yeah.
shame that it turns me on because I know that it violates my values. I hear us saying like first is to get really, really curious. And
Mhm.
this is where partnership is helpful. I refuse to do those big heavy liftings by myself. So I'm
Same.
like, I mentioned from the beginning, like I have a small group of men and women that I can
Mhm.
say, hey, I had this experience. Can you give me feedback? Jonathan, we've done that where I've been like, hey, I had this experience with this guy.
Yeah.
I actually think I need a man's perspective here. Can you help me? And you were able to see things that I was like, oh,
Mhm.
I missed that. I didn't even know that that was at play in the situation.
Yeah.
But just I feel like I've said it 400 times in this conversation, but I want us to say 4 million times, sexuality is so precious and a weird, confusing part of life that we should not have
Mm.
to navigate by ourselves. So these are always conversations that we can reach out to people and talk about. We need to be
Mhm.
talking about them, because the alternative is that we sit in silence and we rot, and we don't want to do that.
I
Yeah.
think about the setup for married life that happens, the setup for disaster, when we
Mhm.
don't acknowledge and own as part of our normal humanity that we're going to be sexually activated by people. So, Jonathan, you
Mhm.
mentioned like this particular type of person that is consistently activating to you.
Mhm.
It, once you're married, that's not going to stop. I think about
Mhm.
Yeah,
and not just in relationship to your trauma pattern, but like in general,
correct.
we're going
Yeah.
to continue to. I've said before, like we're going to continue to find other people attractive in the language that you're using, Bridget, that I'm using more and more. Like we're going to be sexually activated by people.
Mhm.
Maybe another way of saying that is I'm going to notice the beauty of other
Yeah.
people, and that in itself, noticing beauty is not bad. So
Yeah,
I hear a disconnection happening in
Yeah.
the way we're talking about this. Like we're
Mhm.
disconnecting um automatic sin with noticing beauty. We're
Mhm.
Yeah.
also remaining curious in these experiences of noticing beauty
Yeah.
to acknowledge, own when it's going to this, you said dark corners, is that right? Dark edge. When we're
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
to a dark edge around this this happening. Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
And I think you said something so important there, Lauren, where you said this is not automatic sin.
Mhm.
Like when you notice beauty in someone, and for me, sin here, I would love to look at it not like, oh, this is a bad thing, but more like it's a trauma burden that I am carrying. I like to look at sin as equals trauma. Now, follow me a little bit here. What I mean here is hurt people, right? So there's parts in my story where I have some trauma and where I am actively trying to resolve that trauma. And I therefore will try to use other people or abandon
Mhm.
myself and abandon my own values to try and resolve this trauma in my life. So, for
Mhm.
example, I see someone very beautiful and I can be like, great, she's beautiful. But then somebody else walks by and I'm like, wow, I need to have her. And
Mm,
I could see this, oh no, I'm sinning. I shouldn't be sinning like this. But it's more like, yeah, this is what Jesus called sin, where I'm like, oh, you are wanting to have sex with this person that doesn't belong to you. But I don't want to look at this like, oh no, I sinned. Lord, forgive me. Yes, Lord, forgive me. But more like, Lord, I am doing this thing here. And I know it has to do something with my own story and with what I'm trying to resolve in myself. And so for me, sin is more like I am trying to fix something by myself. And I think I have to do it by myself. And therefore, I have to take charge of it and I have to do something about it, but in a twisted way, because I don't actually know what I should do. And that's what I
Yeah.
like calling sin more than anything. And especially
Mhm.
in sexual sin, it's like, well, like a little example for me, I growing up, I always received this message that being a Mexican in the US was terrible and that
mm,
Mhm.
I was not like the really cool white people that
Mhm.
are just amazing and they have everything and they are just really amazing. And I am just ugly and my
Mhm.
accent is
Sad.
funny, so you shouldn't talk to me. So I received that when I was a kid. And from
mm,
my family, from my American family as well, where it's like, oh, like it's just, something that happens culturally. So when I met this girl who was a lot like my family, and she was like, "Yeah, okay, I want to go out with you." I was blown away. I was like, "Oh my goodness!" Like I finally have this. But now this doesn't really have much to do with sex, but it does later. But it's like this thing of like, I finally have it. And it doesn't look like
Mhm.
sin on the outside, right? Because, hey, I'm just dating a
Mhm.
girl that I found pretty and I'm just going out with her. But the obsession in me was like, oh my gosh, like I finally have the acceptance of the white people, you know? Like if
right.
this girl loves me and if she
Mhm.
chooses to marry me, then that means that I'm
Mhm.
fully accepted by this group of people that told me I was terrible when I was a kid. And so
Mm,
then I pursue that with everything inside of me. And she had her own trauma and whatever, and she she was on and off with me. But for
Mhm.
me, that was like such a significant relationship. And then for years later, I was like, why do I still feel like, oh, this is the love of my life? This is the person that I wanted to marry, and now I lost her, and blah blah. And then getting curious with my own story was like, oh no no no. Actually, I was using her to
mm,
be my salvation of, oh, I am finally worth it. I am finally
Yeah.
worthy of the love of this group of people. And so, yes, that's what I would call sin. But when you break it down like that, it's like, oh, because it's a trauma response and I'm trying to heal my trauma by myself. And I
Yeah.
need to get curious and kind
Mhm.
because that curiosity alone is going to be like, why am I doing this? And no, like I should stop doing this. But when I'm kind, I'm curious there and be like, ooh, okay, I am really trying to use this person, and I hate that. And I'm
mm,
also going to be
Mhm.
kind to this part of myself, and I'm going to hold space for this part
Yeah.
to see what's going on inside.
Mhm.
Um, so for me now in my own process with my fiance now, she's Mexican like me, and it's been a whole process for me with like, ooh, loving her is actually a process of me loving myself, for me to love myself. Because in the past, I thought, oh no, Mexican girls are just not my type. I need to get this type of girl. And when I got more curious with my own story, I was like, shoot, if I can't love myself, I'm not going to be able to love anyone. Even if I get the, oh, this girl that I really wanted, I'm not even going to be able to love her. I'm still trying to use her. And so for me with my fiance now, it's been this process of like, wow, the more I heal and the more I love myself, the more I'm able to show up and love her for who she is. And loving her is part of loving me, which is crazy too. Um, and it's amazing, but it just really comes with having the people to talk to, like Bridget said so many times, being curious and kind with yourself and having the people that can hold space for that in your life.
Yeah. I wonder how many people listening will feel invited. I hope we all feel invited to notice rigidity in our attractions. As a dating coach, I hear people, I ask all the time, like, what kind of person are you looking for? And I think it's important that physical attraction be included in this conversation, but I'm always curious when someone says, "Oh, I only date this type of person," because I'm, you know, a public person. People will reach out to me in the DMs and ask for matchmaking help. And it's several times last year, I had this influx of a certain kind of man asking me for a match with a certain kind of woman. And it was ethnically connected, which just it's quite interesting. It's
Mhm,
odd to me to say I'm only attracted to this kind of woman or this kind of man.
mhm,
So I love the invitation you give, Jonathan, and thank you for doing that so humbly and openly of the invitation to say, if there's rigidity in my type,
mhm,
that might
mhm.
be a place to get curious about. Has there been harm done to my
Yeah.
identity, to someone else's identity? That's making me think, oh, I gain face. I gain validity when I'm
Mhm.
associated with this type of person. There might be an invitation there. That's so powerful.
Yeah,
I
100%.
think the last thought I have for our convo today, and then I would love for you to share how people can get connected to you, is I have fear of people thinking, oh, everything I'm sexually attracted to is based on my trauma. I want to
Mm,
clearly say it's part, just like we talked about in our conversation with Jay Stringer, of
mhm.
all of our desires, sexual, professional, whatever, right? All of our desires are rooted in our brokenness, but also our beauty. And
Yeah.
so you never can divorce the two. And so even in situations, what kind of came to mind is, definitely have had a situationship or two in my growing years, right? Where I go, oh, when I look at that guy, I go, of course I was drawn to him. There's so much goodness there.
Mhm.
Of course. And that was so important. And in that situation in particular, I can also, with that ownership, I think sexual ownership is a huge part of how we get free, is to
Mhm.
say, there's also part of, I knew if I could get that guy to like me, I could silence my mother's voice in my head that's saying,
Yeah.
you're the reason you're still single. Because if you would let get rid of some of your boundaries and you dated a guy like this, you would be married by now.
Mm.
And both of those things fueled my attraction for this man. This
Yeah.
reenactment of I can get my mom's approval, and he's a breathtaking child of God. Of course, I'm moved by him.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I think, yeah, just kind of as we wrap up our conversation to say is we're not saying, oh my gosh, all of us are walking around as like horrible trauma people ruining everybody else's lives. We're saying there's beauty and there's brokenness in all of us in this
Yeah.
decision, which is why we
Yeah.
don't have this conversation alone and why this is a lifetime conversation.
Yeah.
I feel so excited for you and Monse, like in engagement and moving towards marriage. And I also know as your friend that like I'm committing in friendship to a lifetime of partnership for you guys when you want that. And that like you don't have to like take all the personality tests and do all this sex therapy and then you're going to get to marriage and you're never going to have an issue ever again. It's like no, that's not the point. And so just thank you for modeling this bravely and taking ownership of your
Mm,
story. And so
Yeah.
curious as far as where you're at in the coaching world, how people can get connected to you, if people want to
Mhm.
work with you, how do they do
mhm,
that?
Yeah. So real quick before I say that, because I was thinking also that there might be someone here that maybe you're like, oh shoot, I married my trauma, or I married the person that I thought was going to heal my trauma.
Oh,
And I don't want you to leave this conversation like, oh, I was that person that actually married that girl or that man. What do I do now?
yeah.
Um, and just wanted to open space here where it's so funny that let's say Bridget goes and marries this guy.
Mhm.
He's very quickly going to stop being
mm,
that thing that she thought he was going to be.
yeah.
So like
Mhm.
maybe 5 years, and then she's gonna be like, "Oh, he's actually not what I thought. He's actually not gonna heal
Mhm.
this in me." And
Yeah.
then whoever you actually end up marrying or end up spending your life with,
Mhm.
whether if you got together because of your trauma or not, there's gonna be a point, and I call it like this, the crux of the relationship
Yes.
where you realize they're a human being and they are not what you thought they were going to be, and you can no longer use them. And then now you either get divorced or you grow and learn to love them and be in partnership with them. And I've seen this in a lot of relationships and a lot of marriages where it's like, oh, I married this person and blah blah. And then there's this point where it's like, are we gonna grow together and are we gonna learn how to love each other and have an amazing marriage? Or are we gonna get separated and just stop this? Or are we just gonna be roommates and So just to say that like everyone will go through this process no matter who you marry
That's good.
Mhm.
and how you ended up there. You're gonna go through this process of, can I love? Can I actually learn how to love? And are you gonna partner with me to do that? And I mean, there's all kinds of answers to that. That's why we have all kinds of divorces and then all kinds of marriages that were terrible and now are amazing. So just
Mhm.
wanted to say that because I was like, oh, I
Fantastic.
was worried about that.
Yes,
But
thank you.
yeah, so how can you find me? Well, you can look for me on Instagram as at Johnny the Coach. I'm no longer very active there, and everything is in Spanish. But you can always send me a message there and reach out, and then we can talk, and then we can have sessions. I give sessions in Spanish and in English, and I focus a lot on men and couples. So mainly men that are going through any kind of sexual addiction, or also same-sex attraction, and you don't want to have same-sex attraction, and you're trying to figure it out. For me, it's just making space for your story, making space to see what's happening inside of you, to go deep and actually see what's happening. You're never gonna get this like just cognitive, oh, this is what you do and this is how you stop from me, because I'm actually interested in your story. So you can find me there, or you can also find me in the Connection Codes website under coaches. If you type my name, Jonathan Hernandez, you'll find me there as
Yeah,
well.
I'll make sure it's linked.
Yeah.
Great. As we wrap up our time together, Jonathan, we want to ask you, like we've been asking guests here lately, how has risking your heart in romance changed you?
Ah, that's such a good question. um, I think, and specifically thinking about with Monse, my fiance now,
Hmm.
risking my heart in romance to love her and be like, we were really good friends for like 8 years and we didn't even like each other. And then I started noticing her and I was like, oh, like if I risk this, there is a potential loss of our entire friendship and of
Mhm.
years of friendship and closeness. And it's just one of the best decisions I've ever made because I feel like I've grown so much. Like I've never grown ever before in any other relationship with anyone. And
Mm.
I've gotten to know so much more of myself, of my story, of her story, uh, grown a lot of patience and a lot of kindness and a lot of things that I know I wouldn't have gotten if I wouldn't have risked for that relationship. And I love risking for love. Like I'm a romantic, and I would always make songs for girls and be like, oh, and like I did that whole thing with so many women, dated a lot for 3 years. It was like, and got my heart broken so many times. And then I'm just really thankful that I did decide to risk it here and be like, okay, here we go again. There's a potential loss, probably bigger than all the others, but I want to see what happens. Yeah.
God bless your risk. That's beautiful.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks so much for being here, friend, and look forward to our next conversation, whenever that is.
Yes, same. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks so much for spending your time with us today. If this conversation encouraged you, challenged you, or helped you feel a little less alone in your dating journey, we'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with someone who might also need the encouragement. You'll find links in the show notes to connect with today's guest, as well as other ways to work with Lauren and me through coaching and other opportunities designed to support you in dating with clarity, trust, and integrity. We believe you don't have to shut down your desire or abandon your values to build a meaningful connection, and we're honored to walk alongside you as you navigate that journey. You can also find us on Instagram at Dating and Desire, where we'll continue the conversation. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.